let's take a look at the last characteristic of first-class functions in JavaScript, which is the idea that functions can be passed in as arguments to other functions. So here we have an array, and we have the blue function. We saw this function before, and this function just returns a string blue. Next, we access the array, and we call the push method on the array. Now notice what's the argument. The argument here is the blue function, because functions are just values. That's what makes them first class. Now, if we were to inspect the array, let's check that out. I have some unnecessary code there, and I'll comment this in. And when we save this, notice the array is logged to the console, and it has our blue function inside of it, right? Return blue. We can access that function, and then we can invoke it if we wanted to. So now we should see the string blue returned. All right, so the idea here is that we are passing the function in as an argument to another method. Let's see another example where we define the function ourselves. So here's a function that returns a string top of the morning to you. Okay, and now we're going to create a function that will accept the good morning function as an argument and actually use that function inside of its code block. So let's create this constant or this function called greeter. And this function will take a greeting func, which will be good morning. And let's also add a name to it. So it's a little more personable, our function. So this function will return a string. So we wanted to invoke the good morning function and then attach the name to the end of the greeting. So we can do this with we can evaluate some expressions inside of our template string here. And inside of the first one, I want to invoke the greeting func. So what I can do inside of here is call greeting func, because this is the named parameter. Even though good morning is the name of our function, keep in mind we're just defining a function here. So I could also just call this func argument, something like this instead, if that's a little clearer. And what I want to do with this func argument is I want to invoke it. So I need to put a set of parentheses there. The next thing I want to do is let's add a comma and then also evaluate the name argument. So here we have funcarg name, and we're going to return whatever this string evaluates to. And now let's use the code. So let's call greeter. And what are the arguments? Whoops, what's just happened here? My bad. There we go. Sorry about that. I don't know why everything just got deleted. But now let's actually use the greeter function. So here we have greeter, and we want to pass it a few arguments, right? And what's the first argument? Well, it needs to be a function. We can see in the function definition that this value is being used as a function, so we know it should be a function. And we already created the function we want to pass in. It's the function that returns a string top of the morning to you. So here we go. We have the good morning function. And do I have to invoke this function when I pass it in? Or do I just pass in the function definition? Right, that's a pretty valid question. I just have to pass in the function definition because we're passing the function into greeter, and then greeter has control over it. It can use it just like it was defined inside the function. And we know that the greeter function actually invokes that function on line 18. So we don't have to invoke it, we're just passing in the function as a value, just as if we were passing in a Boolean or a number or another object. The last argument is just the name. So let's put in Scott. So I'm going to greet myself. Okay. When I save this code, and then I have to log the code as well, let's see what's logged to the console. Excellent. Notice that we have the func argument is executed, and it returns a string top of the morning to you. And then this template string continues evaluating, attaches the name, and we get the full string top of the morning to you, Scott. And that's the idea behind passing functions in as arguments to other functions. You can just pass the function in as if it was another value, and inside of the function you have full access to whatever function was passed in. So you can invoke it and use it just as if it was defined within the function itself. So that's the last concept of first-class functions. Hopefully this felt like a little bit of a review to you because we were already using functions as first class. Now we just formalized its official name.